After my rebirth, everything changed. The man who once groveled at his girlfriend's feet no longer lived in me. When Victoria barked at me to get out of bed and cooked for Ethan in the middle of the night, I didn't feel humiliation, only the strange thrill of déjà vu. I had been here before. I had lived this exact life, and I knew where it would end. In my last life, I gave her everything, my love, my loyalty, my pride. I married her after years of swallowing insults and making endless compromises. And what did I gain? On the second day of our marriage, Ethan, the man she could never forget, ended his life. She blamed me for his death, spat the word murderer at me, and on the anniversary of his fall, she pushed me off a rooftop. I remember the wind tearing at me, the city spinning upside down, and at the last instant before impact, Ethan alive, holding her in his arms. That was the moment I realized I had been nothing but the fool in their tragic play. But this time it would be different. So when she kicked open my door with her entourage sneering behind her, I didn't argue. I didn't protest. I simply said, "All right, I'll make the snack." She raised an eyebrow, surprised by how easily I complied. She didn't know. In my last life, I had fought back. I had refused. And the price was a basin of ice water poured over my fevered body, leaving me shivering through the night until I collapsed in the hospital the next day. Not this time. This time, I had no intention of bowing to her or to Ethan. I walked into the kitchen, their mocking laughter following me. "Victoria, your dog is getting more obedient." One of them snickered. She smirked and replied, "Does he dare disobey? If he steps out of line, I'll replace him." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Instead, I struck the match of my rebellion quietly. A careless slip of my hand, and the kitchen went up in flames. Smoke curled to the house, alarms shrieked, and panic replaced laughter as Victoria and her friends scrambled for fire extinguishers, faces twisted in terror. By the time the chaos settled, the once glamorous living room was a wreck of soot and smoke. And me? I emerged slowly from my room, calm, untouched. Victoria turned, her face streaked with ash, her fury simmering like the embers behind her. This time, I thought, it won't be me who burns. Victoria snapped, her voice cutting through the smoke like a whip. "Sincere Clark, are you an incompetent fool? I asked you for a snack, and you nearly burned the house down. What are you even good for? Would you be happy if we all died in the fire? Ethan almost burned his hand because of you." I kept my head bowed, silent on the outside, but inside I was laughing coldly. Ethan hadn't burned his hand. He just clumsily bumped it while scrambling away from the flames. But somehow, that too had become my fault. Seeing my silence only fueled Victoria's fury. She was winding up for another outburst when Ethan stepped forward, his hand wrapped in a bandage far more dramatic than the tiny scrape deserved. His voice was gentle, soft, even protective. "Victoria, I'm fine. Don't blame Sincere too much. He was probably upset that we disturbed his rest. Resentful, maybe. That's why this happened. Let him sleep." Classic Ethan, playing the saint, draping his false kindness over me while twisting the knife just a little deeper. In another life, I had fallen for it again and again. This time, though, he wasn't wrong. I had done it on purpose. If I couldn't sleep, then no one would. Victoria's eyes softened at Ethan's words, but when she turned back to me, her face hardened with disgust. "Sincere, I never knew you were so petty, so vindictive. Fine. Tonight, you'll learn your lesson." She snapped her fingers toward her clique. "Bring a basin of ice water. Pour it on his bed. Since he loves sleeping so much, let's give him more of it." She tilted her chin, looking down on me like a queen passing judgment, waiting for me to beg, to grovel, to cling to her mercy. But I didn't. Instead, I let out a short, sharp laugh and turned on my heel. There were 1,000 places in the world to sleep. Why chain myself to this house? To her cruelty? Her face darkened as I walked to the door. By the time I stepped outside, her shriek rang out behind me. "Get out and don't come back." I didn't even look back. I could already picture her face flushed with rage, her pride wounded, and that was exactly what I wanted. But I knew this was only the beginning. Making Victoria hate me wasn't enough. I needed to move out, sever every tie, and end this chapter of my life completely. That night, I checked into a hotel, finally sleeping in peace until noon the next day. By afternoon, I was already house hunting. It didn't take long. I found a furnished 3-bedroom apartment, ready to move in. Signing the lease felt like cutting chains I had carried for far too long. The truth was simple. My family's business had long since recovered. I had money. The only reason I ever stayed at Victoria's was because of her, because I loved her. And she, blinded by arrogance, always believed I was nothing without her. Not anymore. By evening, I returned to pack my things. As I stepped into the living room, the sound of elegant music floated through the air, and there they were, Victoria in a shimmering mermaid gown, Ethan in a tailored suit, bodies pressed close as they moved in perfect rhythm. Their breaths mingled, their eyes burned with something electric. I had no intention of disturbing them. I only wanted to slip upstairs, gather my things, and leave quietly. But fate has a way of dragging you back into the fire. One of her friends spotted me. Well, look who's back. Weren't you so tough last night? Storming out? What happened? Couldn't last a single day on your own. Before I could answer, one of the men dragged me forward. Victoria, still in Ethan's arms, didn't miss a step. She only flicked me a glance, cold, dismissive, as though even looking at me was an act of charity. So I smiled, my voice steady. Wow, Victoria, you and Ethan really are a perfect match on the dance floor. Not even world champions could move the way you two do. You should stay chained together, just like this. She shot me a sidelong look, elegant and smug, pressing herself even closer to Ethan. It seems you finally learned your place. But then Ethan froze. His steps faltered, and Victoria stumbled, heel digging into his foot. Concern flashed across her face. Ethan, are you all right? He shook his head, pale, eyes carrying a flicker of sorrow. Victoria, I just remembered. Sincere is your fiancé. And he gave a bitter smile. I'm just an outsider. Her heart twisted instantly. The air shifted, and with a voice dripping with authority, she turned to me. The wedding next week is postponed. After your behavior yesterday, I don't believe you're ready to be a proper husband. Her words were matter-of-fact, casual even. But to me, they were familiar. This was the 99th time she had postponed our wedding. Always an excuse. Always another delay. In my past life, I had endured it. I had waited. And eventually I married her, only to walk straight into hell. Not this time. So I lowered my head, let my voice crack with false sadness, and said, Fine. I respect your decision. You, too, continue. I'll go upstairs. I turned and walked away. Victoria didn't stop me. Her face unreadable, her heart already elsewhere. It was Ethan who sighed softly, guilt lacing his words. Victoria, isn't that a bit harsh? What if Sincere is heartbroken? Victoria cut him off coldly. There's no what if. He always thought she dreamed of marrying him, clung to the idea like it was inevitable. But deep down, he never planned on giving her that satisfaction. Not now. Not ever. So, while laughter and games filled the villa, he slipped away, packing only the essentials, clothes, documents, the fragment of a life he was ready to leave behind. By the time anyone noticed, he was gone, standing on the edge of something new. And that's when he made the call, not to her, but to the one person who had quietly held his world together, Sophia Miller. Sitting across from her in the soft glow of a coffee shop, his heart raced. She wasn't just an old classmate. She was a girl who, in another life, had picked up the pieces after his death, the one who cared for his broken family when grief left him paralyzed, the one who had loved him in silence while he chased someone who never deserved him. And this time, he wasn't going to let her slip away. He didn't waste words. Sophia, he said, voice steady, eyes locked on hers, I want to marry you right away. She froze, blinking, her lips parted in disbelief. Are you serious? But what about Victoria Blackwood? And right on cue, his phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a name he had forgotten to change. My dear Victoria. Sophia turned away, but not before he caught the flicker of jealousy in her eyes. He picked up, and Victoria's voice dripped to the line like poison, mocking, arrogant, entitled. The same tone she had used when he once ran away from her in the dead of winter, only to be met with nothing but cruel laughter at dawn. Even now the memory burned, but this time he didn't flinch. His words cut through like ice. Victoria Blackwood, let's break up. Silence. Then laughter. Cruel, condescending laughter. She reminded him of all the years he'd followed her like a shadow, the life he'd lived under her control, every roof, every meal. Because of me. But he wasn't listening anymore. He was pouring tea for Sophia, watching her cheeks flush with a shy pink, realizing how different it felt to be here, with her. Victoria's voice rose, shrill and commanding, but he was done. Deal, he said flatly, and hung up. By the end of that meal, Sophia had said yes. They left the cafe and walked into a new life together, marriage certificate in hand, his past finally buried in red ink and official stamps. For the first time since his rebirth, he could breathe. This time he would get it right. But fate wasn't finished with him. Days later, in a hotel lobby, as he led Sophia toward his waiting parents, a familiar face appeared. Victoria, with Ethan on her arm. She smirked, venom wrapped in silk, her words sharp as ever. Sincere, are you stalking me? He ignored her, tried to walk past. But her voice cracked like a whip, demanding, clawing back control. And when he finally turned to face her, his reply was calm, almost bored. I'm here with my girlfriend. I don't have time to stalk you. But Victoria only sneered. Girlfriend? To her, it was laughable. She twisted the moment into her narrative, dismissing Sophia, dismissing him, dismissing the truth, because in her mind, he could never really leave. Not him, not her sincere Clark. Victoria's eyes narrowed, her tone dripping with disdain. Do you really think I believe in such a coincidence? If you want me back, prove it. Start simple, go get me some tea. Her arrogance was almost laughable. I couldn't stop the cold chuckle that slipped out. Victoria, you're unbelievable. You eat your dinner, I'll eat mine. Why are you standing in my way? Can't afford your own meal? Her face flushed crimson, the sting of my words cutting deeper than she'd expected. And just as a fury bubbled to the surface, Ethan slid in between us, playing the eternal peacemaker. All right, he said, wrapping an arm over my shoulder with forced camaraderie. Let's not make this ugly. Don't be mad at Victoria. She let me move and only because I've been unwell. She's just taking care of me. Don't take it the wrong way. His touch turned my stomach. I shoved him off, cold and sharp, but then his lips curled into something unsettling, half smirk, half trap. In the next heartbeat, he clutched my hand, yanked it forward, and threw himself backward. His cry echoed through the lobby as his body tumbled down the staircase. Ethan! Victoria's scream cut through the air. She shoved past me, nearly knocking me aside, rushing down to where he lay sprawled in a pool of his own blood. Ethan, are you okay? She cried, her voice breaking as she gathered him into her arms. He groaned, head bleeding, face pale. Victoria, I just wanted to talk to him. I didn't think. His words cracked as though each one was designed to make me the villain. Victoria's fury snapped like a whip. She stormed back up the stairs, blood on her hands, and struck me across the face. The sting burned hot, but her words burned hotter. Are you even human? How could you push him? Before I could answer, Sophia stepped forward, her voice fierce and trembling. It wasn't him, it was intentional. But Victoria silenced her with a glare, holding up her crimson-stained palms like evidence. Intentional? What is this blood fake? The scene drew an audience. My parents stepped out of our private room, horrified. Before they could speak, Victoria turned the knife, twisting the moment for all to see. Mr. and Mrs. Clark, she spat. Look at the son you've raised. How could I ever marry someone so heartless? My parents' lips parted to defend me, but I didn't let them. Instead, I stepped forward, voice cold, sharp, unshaken. There are security cameras. If you want to accuse me, be ready for the truth. Then I pulled the red marriage certificate from my pocket and threw it at her feet. And besides, I'm already married. Even if you begged me, Victoria, I would never marry you now. The room fell into silence. Victoria picked up the document with trembling hands. She opened it, and the truth stared back at her. My name, Sophia's name, the official seal stamped in permanence. Her eyes widened in disbelief, then darkened with rage. You secretly married her? Days ago? Sincere, have you lost your mind? Weren't you the one who dreamed of marrying me? Her voice cracked, fury laced with something she couldn't admit, loss. I didn't flinch. I focused on my parents, on Sophia, the people who mattered. Don't even think about it. I cut her off coldly. I'm doing you a favor. Go live your perfect love story with Ethan. I have a wife now. She faltered, her expression a storm of pride, disbelief, and desperation. But no words came. Ethan returned, staggering with blood still staining his temple, weakly holding his wound. Victoria, he murmured, don't fight with him because of me. I'll be fine. But for the first time, she didn't look at him, didn't care. Her eyes stayed locked on mine, seething, burning. Finally, her lips twisted into a bitter smile. Sincere, you win this time. She turned and left without another word. Ethan stumbled after her, throwing me a venomous glare as he trailed behind. Back at the table, Sophia's warmth and my parents' smiles reminded me of the life I had chosen, the life I was always meant to have. For the first time, the future felt real. But peace never lasts long. That night, a phone call shattered the quiet. Sincere, did you really get married? My friend asked, disbelief echoing through the line. When I admitted it, his voice dropped lower, almost gossipy. You know Victoria's asking around about your marriage, right? She even hired someone to dig into it. And when she found out it was real, he paused, letting the silence build. She made Ethan move out, just like that. Do you think maybe she regrets it? Maybe she still has feelings for you. I almost laughed. A bitter, knowing smile tugged at my lips. Victoria doesn't love anyone, I said coldly. She only chases what she can't have. When I revolve around her, Ethan was her shining prize. But now that I've walked away and Sophia stands at my side, suddenly I'm the one she can't reach. Victoria was no longer the one who seemed untouchable. For the first time, she looked desperate, almost human, but I'd already seen through her illusions. To me, she was the same woman who had once chosen Ethan over me, even gone so far as to destroy me in another life. Love. I scoffed inwardly. She doesn't even have a heart. Let her keep what she fought for. Let her see how happy that choice really makes her. 3 days later, Sophia surprised me with something I hadn't felt in years. Genuine warmth. She blindfolded me, led me into a banquet hall, and when I opened my eyes, the room erupted with balloons, streamers, and familiar faces. A banner stretched across the wall. Happy birthday. Sincere Clark. My friends crowded around, their smiles sincere, their wishes heartfelt. And in the middle of it all, Sophia stood there, radiant in a flowing dress, her eyes shining just for me. I was overwhelmed. In my past life, birthdays had been nothing but bitter reminders of where I stood. Last year, Victoria had left me alone, sulking at home, while she jetted off across the country with Ethan. She posted their smiling photos online, while I wasted away in silence, losing weight and dignity. She hadn't noticed or cared. When I confronted her, she only sneered, telling me I'd brought on myself. But this time was different. This time, I felt what it meant to be cherished. Thank you, my love, I whispered to Sophia, my voice raw. She blushed, pulled out a carefully wrapped box, and handed it to me. Open it. Laughter and teasing from my friends filled the air as I untied the ribbon. Inside was something that made my chest tighten. A Lego set I'd longed for as a boy. I used to doodle it in the margins of my notebooks, talk about it endlessly, but I never owned it. Victoria had once promised to buy it for me, only to dismiss it later as childish, a waste of money. She promised me something better, but that promise had evaporated, like so many others. Sophia's gift wasn't just a toy. It was proof that she saw me, knew me. How did you know? I asked, my voice breaking. She lifted her chin proudly, a soft smile tugging at her lips. Of course I know. I know what you like to eat, what you like to drink, what makes you happy. We have a whole lifetime ahead of us. Sincere, are you ready? I pulled her into a fierce hug, my answer loud and clear. But just as we were about to cut the cake, the doors opened. A chill swept the hall. Standing there, in all her cold elegance, was Victoria Blackwood. My smile faded instantly. "Happy birthday, Sincere," she said smoothly, as though she still belonged here. "What are you doing here?" I asked flatly. Her frown flashed quickly before she masked it with a practiced smile. From behind her back, she revealed a box, unwrapped straight from the store. Another Lego set, the exact model Sophia had just given me. The irony was bitter. When I'd once begged for her affection, she hadn't cared. Now, surrounded by love and warmth she could never offer me, she showed up empty-handed but too late. "No thanks," I said, slipping my arm around Sophia's waist. "My wife already got me the same one." The word wife hit her like a slap. Her smile faltered, her lips tightening as jealousy flickered in her eyes. Then, as if driven by impulse, she rushed forward, grabbed my arm, and dragged me toward the door. Her grip was so forceful I nearly stumbled. The Ice Queen had never looked less composed. "Fine," I muttered. "Let's talk." Maybe if I humored her once, she'd finally disappear from my life. Outside, she lifted her chin, her cold beauty sharpened by desperation. "Are you still sulking? You married someone else just because I postponed the wedding? Did you even think this through?" "I thought about it plenty," I replied calmly. Shock flickered in her eyes. She tried again, her voice softening. "Look, I know I can be unreasonable sometimes, but even if we've broken up, can't we still be friends?" I almost laughed. The best kind of ex is the kind that acts like they're dead. "We don't need to be friends, Victoria." Her composure cracked. "You hate me. Why? Can't a person be given a second chance?" I shook my head. "What's lost is lost. Stay out of my life. I don't love you anymore." As I turned to leave, Ethan appeared, like a shadow clinging to the drama. He grabbed my hand, playing the tragic martyr. "Sincere, wait," he pleaded. "I've already moved out of Victoria's house. The one she really loves is you. If you're willing to take her back, I'll go. I'll disappear." His voice trembled as he looked at Victoria, full of theatrical sacrifice. In the past, she would have melted at his words, turned on me with venom while clutching him as her prize. But this time, she barely glanced at him, her voice impatient. "Ethan, Sincere and I are talking. Don't interrupt." Ethan froze, stunned, as she continued coldly. "The reason he's upset is because you and I were too close. What you need to do now is stay far away." His lips quivered. Pain etched across his face. "So I was the extra one all along," he whispered hoarsely. "Fine, I'll go." For once, the performance wasn't for her. It was real heartbreak. But Victoria didn't even flinch. Victoria's plea sounded almost earnest. But I'd heard this song before. The childhood friend who claims I'm the center of her world, who expects me to wait forever while she chases whatever glitter she can't have. In my last life, I believed that story. I bet myself into the shape she wanted, convinced a childhood bond trumped everything new. I compromised until I married her, and it ruined me. Ethan staged madness, the accusation, the push from a rooftop. Those words she spat me then, "You killed the most important person in my life," are carved into the bones of 2 lifetimes. So when she tells me now that I'm the most important person in her heart, the words land as something grotesque and hollow. I laughed quietly. Let her have her fairy tale. Let her see how beautiful it is to live in the world she chose. 3 days later, Sophia gave me something I've been starved for years. A birthday filled with warmth. She blindfolded me, led me into a hall, and I opened my eyes to friends, banners, laughter. Happy birthday. Sincere Clark hanging above us like a promise. Surrounded by real faces that cared. With Sophia radiant in the center, I felt a tenderness that made last life ache in my chest. Their little jokes, the way she handed me a carefully wrapped box. Inside, a Lego set I'd idolized in childhood. It wasn't the toy that mattered so much as the fact she'd listened, really listened, to the small things that made me me. When I thanked her, she smiled and said, simply, "We have a lifetime. Are you ready?" I pulled her close and knew I'd finally chosen well. Then the doors opened. Victoria stepped in like a cold wind, casual and late, carrying the same box set in bare store packaging. The timing was so perfectly petty, it almost made me laugh. She wanted to puncture the scene she hadn't bothered to create years ago. I didn't give her the satisfaction. I slipped my arm around Sophia and said, "My wife already got me the same one," as if the word itself weren't small and dangerous and radically true. Her face collapsed into something like jealousy. In a reckless instant, she yanked me toward the door and demanded we talk. For a moment, I entertained the idea that a quick word might end her interference. Outside, she tried the old lines, confusion, pretend regret, the plea to remain friends, and I felt how pointless it was to bargain with someone who'd once plotted my end. "Stay out of my life," I told her and meant it. Ethan couldn't resist the drama. He lunged in, declared himself the tragic martyr who'd move away if I returned to Victoria. And for one ridiculous second, I thought she might be moved, but she brushed him off as impatient. The man staggered away, crestfallen, real heartbreak leaking through his theatrics for once. It made me think of my own former desperation, the nights I nearly broke. The party wound down on a peaceful note, and then the world did what it always does, brought responsibilities and small cruelties. Victoria's parents called, asking me to attend the wedding as a favor to their older years. I couldn't say no. They had raised me like one of their own once, and I wasn't cruel enough to refuse the elders. I told Sophia, and she agreed to come, brave, generous soul, and together we sat in the front row when the ceremony began. Victoria's vows were a performance written for me. She turned to the crowd and, with the gilded poise of a practiced actress, declared that I had always been the most important person in her life, even as she married another. The words were a theatrical knife aimed at Ethan on the stage, and at me, a test I refused to pass. I ate my dinner with a detached calm, letting the compliment hang in the air like a lie someone else had told. Her gaze hunted me all night, Ethan's jealous stare snapping like small thunderclaps. When it was over, we left quietly. A month later, Sophia told me she was pregnant. The news settled into my chest like sunlight. That night, Ethan reappeared, wasted and raw, pounding at our door. He stumbled into our living room and turned his pain into accusation. How could Victoria talk only about me? How could she love me more than him? He wept like a man unmoored, a grotesque mirror of the boy I had once been, hollow, pleading, willing to hurt. He confessed a near suicide that I'd never known about then, a confession that should have broken me, but instead hammered home the truth I'd already learned. She watched him almost go and did not move. Victoria arrived like a scorned queen, furious, impatient, telling him to leave as if his collapse were an inconvenience. The pity in me was quiet, the old reflexes gone. I closed the door softly behind him and felt something close to peace. Sophia and my parents safe inside, a new family forming around me. Life kept moving, messy, tender, dangerous. But for the first time since being given a second chance, I felt I was steering the ship. The past still haunted the corners of my days, but I was no longer its puppet. I'd chosen differently, and that choice was beginning to change everything. Victoria's voice wavered, softening like she thought an apology could rewrite years of damage. She told me she and Ethan were never a good match, that she was sorry for how things turned out, and then, almost timidly, she offered me the past. If you miss me too, maybe we could try again, maybe find what we lost. But before the words fully left her lips, Ethan exploded. He stormed out of the house like a man unraveling, and for a second I worried. A desperate man in that state could cause real damage, to himself, to others. I wanted to tell Victoria to follow him, but when I turned, she wasn't even looking at the door. Her eyes were fixed on me, hungry, expectant. "Don't worry about him," she whispered. "The unloved one is always the third wheel. You know I love." "Enough." My voice cut sharp through her fantasy. "Go after him. If his so-called bipolar flares up, and he kills himself, That'll be on you. In my past life, I've been told Ethan suffered from bipolar disorder. But looking back, I never knew what was real and what was part of their twisted games. After all, the man who supposedly died once had been very much alive when I fell. A performance, nothing more. Victoria brushed off my warning with chilling ease. He already tried yesterday, and he's fine, isn't he? Just empty threats. Then she leaned in closer, her tone dripping with longing. Sincere. Can't we start seeing each other again? I miss you. That was the moment it hit me. The proud, dazzling Victoria I once knew had rotted into something grotesque. Her beauty souring with every word. A wave of nausea rose in me, and I spat out the only thing left to say. Get lost. She stomped her foot like a scorned child and ran off. I thought that would be the end of it. But deep in the night, the phone rang, ripping me from sleep. On the other end, her parents' broken voices carried a grief too heavy to decipher. Through the sobs, one thing became clear. Victoria was dead. I rushed to the scene, Sophia at my side, only to be met with horror. Blood splattered across the concrete. Her body, shattered, twisted, lay at the very same spot where I had once fallen in my past life. My skin prickled with a cold dread, as if fate itself had replayed the ending but switched the cast. The police filled in the blanks. She had found Ethan, they argued, and for once, every word she shouted was in my defense. In his frenzy, Ethan shoved her, sending her over the edge. Then, crazed with panic, he bolted into the street, only to be struck and killed by a car. Listening to it, I felt nothing simple. Not grief, not relief, just a strange, heavy silence in my chest. Call it karma, call it justice. In another life, they pushed me to my death. In this one, they paid in blood. A week later, after the funerals, I stood at Victoria's grave. For the first time, the weight I'd been carrying, the anger, the betrayal, the memories carved into my bones, finally loosened. I could breathe. I could let go. And for the first time in 2 lifetimes, I was ready to live.